Hello everyone, my name is Tyler and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to apply for the HSCP scholarship. And there's 8 different components to the scholarship. So I'm going to, in the first part, breaking down each component of the application, and in the second part I'm going to be explaining what I did for each of those components and how you could be an attractive applicant for the scholarship. Alright, so jumping right into it, I'm going to list the 8 components of the scholarship, starting with the paperwork. So it's going to be a lot of paperwork, including work history, living history, so where your previous residents are and your current residence, things like volunteer experience, medical history, anything like that. So just a lot about your history and what you've done in the past. The second component to the scholarship is the background check. Pretty straightforward. They're just looking at you if you have any criminal history, because that could obviously be a potential issue if they were to award you the scholarship and later find out that, oh, hey, I'm a convicted felon or something like that. So the third component of the scholarship is interviews. And what this looks like is they typically prefer to get 2 officers in the field in which you're going. And so for me, that's pharmacy. So they tried to get me 2 pharmacists to interview me. They were only able to get 1, actually. And the second one was a nurse, but also in the medical field, right? And so those interviews are preferably conducted in person, but my second interview was actually over the phone. So obviously, I mean, I did get the scholarship, so I don't think it matters too much whether it's in person or in the phone or over the phone, but they did say they prefer to do it in person. The fourth component of the scholarship I want to talk about is letters of recommendation. So they're going to want 5 letters of recommendation in total. 3 of those are going to be from people from your work or previous job. So I used to, and I currently still do, work at Walgreens. So I got 3 of my managers there to write letters of rec for me, and they also want 2 letters of recommendation from college professors, assuming that you're going from an undergrad degree to a doctorate program of some kind. So you should have some college professors that you've had interactions with, and they'll want 2 letters of recommendations from those. And the 5th component of this application I want to talk about is going to be the motivational statement. So this is what took me probably some of the most time to put together. I think they do weigh it pretty heavily when they're reviewing when the board is reviewing your application. And so what they kind of want you to write about in that is, 1, why is the scholarship desirable to you? More specifically, like, why are you choosing the Navy, right? Because only the HSCP scholarship's only offered through the Navy. So why are you picking the Navy? Number 2, why are you interested in the medical field that you're applying for? So for me, it was pharmacy. So I wrote about why am I interested in pharmacy specifically. And then the third component is what makes you an attractive candidate, right? So you kind of want to be your own hype man in a sense in the motivational statement. So, and I'll come back to that later when I go over my experience with the motivational statement. And the 6th component that I want to talk about is the letter of acceptance from the doctorate program that you applied to. So all this is, for example, I applied to pharmacy school. Once I got my letter of acceptance saying, hey, you get to go to pharmacy school in the fall, I just submit a copy of that to them, and that fulfills this requirement. So this one's pretty easy. And the 7th component to the application is going to be your transcripts. And so this is just going to be from college. They didn't ask me anything about my high school transcripts. So for college, they're going to know like what classes you took and what grades you got. These are going to be official transcripts, so they'll have to request those from your college. And they also want to see that you have a GPA of at least 3.0. If you don't have at least a 3.0, then you're not probably going to get accepted for the scholarship. And the 8th and final component of the application is going to be your degree completion plan. All this is a list of classes that you're going to be taking throughout your doctorate program and listing out when you're going to be taking them. And so I have mine here that I have for pharmacy school. So it just lists out by each term what classes I'm going to be taking, how many credits they are, and basically it just lists out your plan to complete the degree. So that's also a pretty easy requirement to meet. You just request that typically from your doctorate program, and then they'll help you out with that. So in this next part of the video, I'm going to be talking about the trickier components to the application, going into a bit more detail and talking about what I did specifically and try to give some recommendations to you on what you could do to make your application more attractive. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about interviews and how they went and how you can prepare for those. I'll talk about the motivational statement and some things that they're looking for specifically in the motivational statement. I'll also talk about the letters of recommendation and who may be good to write those. And then I might touch on a little bit on the paperwork aspects, specifically the medical requirements. All right, so starting with the interviews. Like I said before, you're going to be doing 2 interviews, preferably in person if you can. My interviews actually were probably one of the weakest parts of my application, believe it or not. I felt like I was very nervous, at least for my first and most important interview, the in-person one. I was really nervous, and I stumbled over my words, but it just so happened he was a really nice guy, really understanding, and it obviously worked out in the end. But some things I would recommend for that are they do ask a lot of leadership related questions, some Navy related questions. So just be prepared to talk about leadership, maybe give some examples from your life on how you've demonstrated leadership, maybe what leadership means to you, and then talk a bit about why the Navy specifically and what's attracted you to that branch maybe versus other branches. Next, regarding the letters of recommendation, like I said, you'll need 3 letters of recommendation from either your current employer or a previous employer. I had been working in a pharmacy as a technician for the last year and a half so that was enough time for me to kind of build my reputation with, I was working for Walgreens, and still am. It allowed me enough time to build my reputation there and get all 3 letters of recommendation from Walgreens, which is great. I was able to get one from my pharmacy manager, so pharmacist in charge is what they also call him. I was able to get one from my store manager and also the assistant manager, and those were able to go through just fine. The other 2 letters of recommendation will need to be from 2 of your college professors. For me, I was lucky enough to go to a small liberal arts college, Linfield College. Go Wildcats! But no, that really helped me. The small class sizes anyway helped me to get to know my professors a lot better than I would have been able to like at a bigger university. I was able also to do research with one of my professors, which really helped me to build that relationship and show kind of what kind of person I am. So my recommendation to anybody looking into the scholarship, if you're already in high school, if a small college is an option for you, I would personally go that route just so you're able to build that relationship with your professors. If not, say you're already in some sort of bigger college, just try to find ways to get involved and get to know the faculty better. Because that relationship that you can build with them is invaluable. And the next component that I wanted to just touch on a little bit was the medical piece of the paperwork that you had to fill out. I was lucky enough not to have to fill out a lot of that paperwork. The reason being, I was actually dual processing with the Navy for a while. And what that means is while I was pursuing the HSCP scholarship, I was also pursuing a role in the reserves. So, and I'll go into more detail on this in a minute, but basically what that meant is I had gone through MEPS and got medically cleared for everything. So I don't know a lot of the kind of questions that they ask for the medical component because I already been cleared for most things. I do know like very specific things they look for, like asthma, various mental issues, like if you had seen counselors for certain things, that's like a reason to not accept you. But other than that, I don't know too much just because I didn't have to go through that process. All right, so now I want to talk about the motivational statement. And one thing that I think made a real big difference in, and that really stood out in my motivational statement versus Other applicants was the fact that I was in DEP for almost 6 months. Yeah, it was about 6 months. Um, so let me explain a little bit about what that is. DEP stands for Delayed Entry Processing. So first, the reason that I was in DEP was because when I was first originally talking to the at the time the medical recruiter, that's what she recommended. She thought it would enhance the attractiveness of my scholarship, which I do believe it did. Um, there was a slight problem though, is that so the year before I started pharmacy school, I was still finishing some prerequisites, and so I had not a lot of time to do my basic training and my A school in between when my prerequisites ended and pharmacy school began. So I wasn't able to go to basic training and to go to A school because there was no time. And for clarification, I definitely don't recommend going this route, like doing the dual processing and then dropping out of DEP, because I actually had a valid reason for doing it, and everyone was all every recruiter I talked to was all for it because they wanted me to pursue pharmacy school. They wanted me to pursue this scholarship first and foremost, and they didn't want basic training and then the A school to get in the way of that. But I was also able to gain a lot of valuable experience from my time in DEP. So what I had to do, if those of you who aren't familiar, what you do is you have these monthly meetings that you go to, and you meet with, you get to see a lot of different recruiters from all over the area. So you get to make connections there. Also, you get to see what Navy culture is like. You start to learn more. So they teach you the different stances, positions, what you're supposed to do when you're entering, or I guess boarding a ship. So that's how much I learned. Boarding a ship or leaving the ship. Just certain customs. They also teach you about the ranks. So they provide you with a handbook that helps like walk you through all these things. Also, you get to meet other Navy recruits, and you just kind of get a feel for the culture of the Navy. And I feel like that first and foremost was the most valuable to me, along with being able to learn about all these different components that is in the manual that they give you. So this experience that I had in DEP allowed me to go more in depth.
He's too dangerous to be left alive.
On my motivational statement and talk about why I wanted to be in the Navy specifically, because I had this 6 months worth of experience that I could draw from and talk about. So I felt like that was invaluable. As far as the why pharmacy part for me, I won't go too in depth here in this video just because it's a little bit more personal, but it had to do with certain aspects of my family. And so I was able to talk about that in my motivational statement. And since I made it so personable and relatable, I felt like that was also a very attractive part of the motivational statement. And then the last piece that I want to talk about for the motivational statement is why me? What makes me a good candidate? And what I really drove home there is leadership experience. I think that what really helped me in getting this scholarship was the fact that I actually applied for it, I think a little bit later in life than most people do. So most people, this is my opinion right here. I'm not saying this is fact, but this is what I think, because this is what I've seen, is that most people go right from high school to undergrad, and right from undergrad to a grad program, and then maybe take a gap year. So I actually had a bit more experience. So I did take a gap year right out of high school to work, and then I did my 4 years for undergrad all in a row, and then I took a 2-year break after that just to gain more work experience, and then I applied for pharmacy school. And so this allowed me to gain a lot more leadership experience than I think most people have. Specifically, what I did was I worked at a local Native American reservation in the Natural Resources Department. So I was a youth crew leader. And so at first, the first 2 summers, so this was just a summer position. And the first 2 summers, I would basically just be leading the crews out on work different at different work projects, whether that be like building hiking trails or doing invasive species removal. Just very basic leadership experience. I was leading a crew of 8 people, so I got to talk about that in my motivational statement. And then the 3rd summer that I did this, I was actually the youth crew supervisor. So I kind of oversaw the program in a sense where I would help to set up the project. So I'd email different organizations and I wasn't out with the crews as much, but I was doing more of an overseer role. So I felt like my work experience was definitely a benefit for me in regards to my leadership experience. Also, I had quite a bit of volunteer leadership experience as well, specifically through my church. I have a lot of volunteer roles through my church. I was once in charge of the teen fundraising program, so I got to talk about that. And I was a youth minister of sorts there, so I teach junior church at my church. And so I got to talk about those leadership experiences that I've had. And just the more leadership experience that you get allows you to have more stories to tell. And I feel like, especially in interview settings and when you get to make these motivational statements, talking about specific stories and why the leadership experience was meaningful to you is really powerful. And don't get me wrong, I'm not recommending or suggesting that people take these gap years to accumulate experience, but what I am saying is just get leadership experience whenever and however you can, whether that be paid or unpaid, during summers or during school. Any leadership experience you can get is going to be valuable and make you a more attractive candidate for the position. And one of the last things that I want to talk about for this video is, when should I get started? What is the timeline of things? When do I need to start accumulating these letters of recommendation? When do I need to start talking to my military recruiter and such? And to this I would say as soon as possible. It's never too early to get into a recruiting office and start talking to the medical recruiters about this, because they're going to be able to walk you through the steps, make you and help you become a more attractive candidate. I would say this, just be careful about just going into any old recruiting office, because most of the time you're going to run into enlistment recruiters, basically meaning people that are trained to get people into the military as enlisted, not as officers. So when you go into one of these offices, just be sure to be clear about what you're looking for, and then they'll get you in touch with the right people. And once you're in touch with the right people, they'll help walk you along and get the process started. Also, I want to say, for each program, the deadline for the application is going to be different. So for pharmacy, our deadline is around October-ish. I had to get my application in by October 1st, and then the board reviews it in October and November, and I had my answer in December. But this is going to be different for whatever profession that you're looking into. And again, if you haven't seen my previous video, the year that I applied for the scholarship, they were offering in between either a 2 or a 3-year scholarship. And so you have to apply about a year early. So I actually ended up getting the 3-year scholarship. So how it works is, if you have the option to get a 2 or 3-year scholarship, they're going to want to apply a year in advance. So I would start getting my benefits my 2nd year of pharmacy school. And so they want you to have your application in about when you're starting pharmacy school, because that's going to be a year early. So let's say you're a doctor and they're offering a full ride, a full 4-year scholarship. You're going to want to apply a whole year in advance of when you're planning on starting medical school. And I think that's all that I have for this video. So I just want to thank everyone so much for sticking with me till the end of this video. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment. I'm usually pretty active, and so I should be able to respond. If I get enough comments and questions, I might do another video like a Q&A kind of thing. Just keep an eye out for more content. I want to make more videos about different aspects of this scholarship, the Navy in general, or maybe even just general pharmacy videos. Who knows? So thanks again for watching, and until next time.